The Three Sacred Steps, Ancient Wisdom for Breaking Free from Your Past. You know what's fascinating? We spend thousands of dollars on therapy, read dozens of self-help books, and scroll through countless motivational quotes, trying to figure out how to let go of our past mistakes. But there's a 2,500-year-old framework that cuts through all the noise and gives us a clear, actionable path forward. And here's the thing that nobody tells you about this ancient wisdom. It's not about positive thinking, it's not about affirmations, and it's definitely not about pretending your mistakes didn't happen. In fact, it requires you to do something that goes against every instinct we have in our modern self-improvement culture. What I'm about to share with you has helped millions of people across centuries transform their relationship with guilt, shame, and regret. And by the end of this conversation, you'll understand why the way you've been trying to deal with your past might actually be keeping you stuck in it. Let me start by asking you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you replayed a mistake in your mind like a broken record? Maybe it was something you said in a meeting that came out wrong. Maybe it was a relationship you damaged through your actions. Maybe it was a business decision that cost you money or opportunity. We all have these moments, don't we? These memories that show up uninvited, usually at 3 in the morning or right when we're trying to focus on something important. And what do we typically do with these memories? We try to suppress them. We try to rationalize them away. We tell ourselves it wasn't that bad, or that everyone makes mistakes, or that we should just move on. But here's what nobody tells you. That approach doesn't actually work. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push it down, the more violently it's going to shoot back up to the surface. The ancient framework I'm talking about comes from Buddhist philosophy. But don't worry, you don't need to be Buddhist to apply this. You don't need to believe in anything spiritual at all. This is purely practical psychology that happens to be thousands of years old. And it centers around 3 distinct steps that work in a specific sequence. Most people who hear about forgiveness or letting go of the past get some vague advice like, just forgive yourself, or what's done is done. But that's not helpful, is it? It's like telling someone who's drowning to just swim. The brilliance of this ancient approach is that it gives you concrete actions to take in a specific order that actually change your psychological relationship with your past. The first step is something called radical acceptance, but it's not what you think. We use the word acceptance so casually in modern culture that it's lost all meaning. We say, I accept it, and then immediately go back to ruminating about it. Real acceptance, the kind that actually transforms you, is about seeing the mistake for exactly what it is, without adding any narrative to it. This means looking at what you did without the story of what it means about you as a person, without the catastrophizing about how it's going to affect your future, without the comparison to others who supposedly would never make such a mistake, just the bare facts of what happened. Here's why this is so powerful and why it's so difficult. Our ego, that part of us that's constantly trying to maintain a positive self-image, absolutely hates admitting we were wrong. It will do backflips to explain why what we did wasn't really that bad, or why we had good reasons for it, or why the other person was actually more at fault. The ego wants to protect us from the pain of seeing ourselves as flawed. But here's the paradox. That protection is what keeps us imprisoned. When you refuse to fully accept that you made a mistake, you can't move past it. It's like having a splinter in your finger, but refusing to acknowledge it's there. You can't remove something you won't admit exists. So what does real acceptance look like in practice? It means saying to yourself with complete clarity and honesty, I did this thing, it was wrong, it caused harm. Not, I made a mistake, but I was stressed, or I shouldn't have done that, but they pushed me to it. Just the clean acknowledgement of what happened. And here's what's counterintuitive about this. When you stop fighting the reality of what you did, something releases inside you. That constant background tension of trying to maintain the fiction that you're someone who doesn't make mistakes, that exhausting effort just dissolves. You're human. Humans have imperfections. Humans make mistakes. That's not a character flaw. It's the basic operating system of being human. Once you truly accept this, not just intellectually, but in your bones, you can stop wasting energy on self-deception and redirect that energy toward growth. But acceptance alone isn't enough, and this is where most modern self-help gets it wrong. The next step in this ancient framework is revelation, and it's probably the most countercultural thing I'm going to tell you today. You need to confess your mistake to another person. Now, before you close this video, because that sounds terrifying, let me explain why this step is absolutely essential and how to do it in a way that's safe and constructive. In our modern culture, we've become obsessed with privacy and self-sufficiency. We think that dealing with our problems alone is a sign of strength. We think that if we can just work through it in our own minds, that's superior to involving anyone else. But there's a reason why every wisdom tradition across human history has incorporated some form of confession or unburdening. When a mistake lives only in your mind, it takes on a distorted shape. It becomes either much bigger than it really is, growing into a monster that defines your entire self-worth, or you minimize it so much that you never actually learn from it. Both of these distortions keep you stuck. When you speak your mistake out loud to another human being, several profound things happen. First, you break the isolation that shame creates. Shame thrives in secrecy. It tells you that if anyone really knew what you did, they would reject you completely. But when you actually tell someone and they don't reject you, when they respond with understanding or even share their own similar mistakes, something fundamental shifts. You realize you're not uniquely terrible, you're just human, like everyone else. Second, putting your mistake into words forces you to process it differently than when it's just swirling around in your thoughts. Your brain literally works differently when you verbalize something versus when you just think it. The act of forming your experience into language that another person can understand requires you to organize it, to see it from outside yourself, to gain perspective. But here's the critical part. You can't confess to just anyone. The ancient framework is very specific about this. You need to find someone who has 3 qualities. They need to be wise enough to understand the complexity of human behavior and not give you simplistic advice. They need to be compassionate enough to not judge you harshly for your mistake. And they need to care enough about your growth to tell you the truth, not just make you feel better. This might be a mentor, a therapist, a trusted friend, or a spiritual advisor. It's not your gossip buddy who's going to use your confession as entertainment. It's not someone who's going to say, "Oh, that's nothing," and brush it off. It's someone who can hold space for the reality of what you did while still seeing your potential for growth. Think about it this way. When you keep a mistake locked inside your own mind, you become both the prosecutor and the defense attorney, and you're terrible at both jobs. You're either way too harsh on yourself, replaying the mistake endlessly and turning it into evidence that you're fundamentally flawed, or you're way too lenient, making excuses and avoiding real accountability. But when you bring another person into the process, someone who has that combination of wisdom and compassion, they can help you see the mistake accurately. Not as big as your shame makes it, not as small as your ego wants it to be, but as it actually is, a mistake that a human made, with consequences that can be addressed and lessons that can be learned. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what if I can't find anyone like that? What if I don't have someone in my life I can trust with this? That's a fair concern, and it points to a larger problem in our modern culture. We've structured our lives in a way that often leaves us without deep, trust-based relationships. We have hundreds of social media connections, but nobody we'd call at 3 in the morning. If that's your situation, then finding or creating that relationship needs to be a priority, not just for dealing with past mistakes, but for your overall mental health. This might mean joining a support group, starting therapy, getting involved in a community organization, or deliberately deepening a promising friendship. The point is, you cannot do this work in isolation. Humans are social creatures, and psychological healing happens in connection with other humans. Once you've completed these first two steps, accepting the mistake fully and revealing it to someone trustworthy, you're ready for the third and final step, restraint and redirection. This is where you make a concrete commitment to not repeat the mistake, and you put systems in place to support that commitment. This isn't about willpower or positive thinking. It's about understanding the conditions that led to your mistake and changing those conditions. Let me give you an example of what this looks like in practice. Let's say your mistake was losing your temper and saying something hurtful to your partner during an argument. The acceptance step means acknowledging without excuse, I said these specific words, they caused pain, and my anger does not justify that harm. The revelation step means telling someone you trust about what you did and why it troubles you, hearing their perspective, and gaining insight into the patterns behind your behavior. But the restraint and redirection step is where the real change happens. This is where you ask yourself, what were the conditions that led to that explosion? Were you sleep-deprived, hungry, already stressed from work? Had similar tensions been building for weeks without being addressed? Did you grow up in a household where yelling was normal? Once you understand the conditions, you can change them. Maybe that means establishing a rule with your partner that you don't have difficult conversations after 9 p.m. when you're both tired. Maybe it means learning to recognize the physical signs that your anger is escalating and taking a break before you reach the explosion point. Maybe it means going to therapy to work on the childhood patterns that make you react so intensely to certain triggers. The key is that you're not just promising yourself, I'll never do that again, and hoping willpower will carry you through. You're analyzing the architecture of the mistake and rebuilding that architecture so the mistake becomes much less likely to happen. And here's something crucial that the ancient framework teaches us. Making the same mistake once or twice more doesn't mean you failed at this process. It means you're human, and behavior change is hard. What matters is the trajectory. Are you making this mistake less frequently over time? Are you catching yourself earlier in the process? Are you able to repair the damage more quickly? That's progress. The goal isn't perfection, it's progression. The goal isn't to never make mistakes, it's to make different mistakes. If you're making the same mistake 100 times with no change in pattern, then yes, you need to go back to step 3 and really look at what conditions you haven't addressed yet. But if you're genuinely working the system and still stumble occasionally, that's not failure, that's being human. There's a profound wisdom in this framework that our modern quick-fix culture often misses. We want to skip straight to feeling better. We want to read one article or watch one video and have our guilt magically disappear. But transformation doesn't work that way. These 3 steps, acceptance, revelation, and restraint, they take time, they take courage, they require you to be uncomfortable. But they actually work, and they work precisely because they don't offer you an easy escape from discomfort. They offer you a way to move through the discomfort and come out transformed on the other side. Let me tell you what happens when you actually do this work, when you stop running from your mistakes and start using this framework to process them. First, you develop what psychologists call psychological flexibility. This is the ability to experience difficult thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. When you've practiced truly accepting a mistake, sitting with the discomfort of acknowledging your own imperfection, you get better at tolerating discomfort in general. You become less reactive, less defensive, less brittle. Second, you develop genuine self-compassion, which is completely different from self-esteem. Self-esteem is about feeling good about yourself. Self-compassion is about being kind to yourself, even when you don't feel good about yourself. It's recognizing that everyone struggles, everyone makes mistakes, and suffering is part of the human experience. When you can hold that perspective, mistakes don't devastate you anymore. They're just data points, information you can learn from. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you develop the capacity for real change. Most people stay stuck in the same patterns their entire lives because they never do the work of truly accepting their mistakes, revealing them to get outside perspective, and systematically changing the conditions that led to those mistakes. They just beat themselves up, promise to do better, and then repeat the cycle. But when you work this three-step framework, you're actually interrupting the cycle at every level: psychological, social, and behavioral. That's why it's so powerful. Now, I want to address something that might be coming up for you. Maybe you're thinking about a mistake from your past that feels too big for this framework. Maybe you hurt someone badly. Maybe you caused lasting damage. Maybe the consequences of your mistake are still unfolding. If that's you, I want to say this clearly. This framework is not about escaping consequences or avoiding amends. If your mistake harmed someone and you can make amends, you should absolutely do that as part of your restraint and redirection. But this framework is about your internal relationship with the mistake, about freeing yourself from the prison of unprocessed guilt and shame so that you can actually show up better in the world going forward. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone you've harmed is not to keep apologizing or trying to fix it, but to genuinely change so that you never harm someone that way again. Sometimes you can't make direct amends because the person is no longer in your life, or because reaching out would cause more harm than good. In those cases, the amends you make are indirect. You become a person who helps others avoid the mistake you made. You create value in the world that counterbalances the harm you caused. You carry the lesson forward and let it make you wiser, kinder, more careful. That's not letting yourself off the hook. That's taking responsibility in the deepest way possible. The ancient teachers who developed this framework understood something that modern psychology is only now confirming through research. You cannot hate yourself into becoming a better person. Shame does not motivate positive change. It motivates hiding, defensiveness, and repeated mistakes. What motivates real change is the combination of clear-eyed acceptance of what you did wrong, connection with others who can help you see yourself accurately, and systematic change to the conditions that led to the mistake. That's the formula. It's simple, but it's not easy. It requires courage, humility, and persistence. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to think about one mistake from your past that's still taking up real estate in your mind. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that shows up when you're trying to fall asleep, or that flashes into your awareness at random moments. Now, ask yourself honestly, have you actually moved through all 3 steps with this mistake? Have you truly accepted it without excuse or rationalization? Have you revealed it to someone wise and compassionate who could help you process it? Have you identified and changed the conditions that led to it? If the answer is no to any of these questions, you know what your next step is. This ancient framework has been helping people transform their relationship with their past for millennia. It's not magic, it's not mystical, it's just a clear, practical process for doing the psychological work that actually leads to change. And the beautiful thing is, once you learn to work this process with one mistake, you have a tool you can use for the rest of your life. Every time you mess up, and you will mess up because you're human, you'll know exactly what to do. Accept it clearly, reveal it to someone trustworthy, and change the conditions that led to it. That's how you stop repeating your past and start creating a different future. The question isn't whether you'll make mistakes. The question is whether you'll let those mistakes trap you in cycles of shame and repetition, or whether you'll use them as raw material for growth. The choice is yours, And now you have a map for making that choice real.